Yes, so the recording will be available. It will be on the Western Cape site. It will be stored. I will also share the presentation. I'll save it in a folder as well for you to get access to. And then also, and hopefully, can you see my screen?
Yes, we're able to see your screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so you will see there is a WhatsApp number as well that you can send me a WhatsApp, and I'll add you guys to the Stats WhatsApp group, because in that group I'll also share other notes and things as well. So I've made some nice summaries about the chapters going ahead and formulas and all those kind of things. So we'll definitely share that in the WhatsApp group as well. So so you are will be able to get those as well. So just send me a WhatsApp to that WhatsApp number, and I'll add you. Yeah, the next we're gonna try for some of these sessions to make it a bit later as well, so that people can get to home and things like that. The only reason again why today is a bit earlier is because of load shedding on my side. So which started at 6. I didn't want to have the full 2-hour session during load shedding, because the lines sometimes get bad after a certain time. But we will also look at having these sessions at a later time, on a Thursday as well. So some of it will be scheduled for 6 o'clock at night as well. So also, maybe not relevant at the moment because you guys are also, because it's a year subject and nearly getting into things. But please, if there is anything of a subject matter that you're struggling with and you just want to have a 30-minute check-in with me, just let me know, and I'll set that up as well for other days in the week. So please, it's not the issue at all if you come at a point and you say, okay, but I don't understand a certain topic and I just want to have a quick check-in. Please feel free to let me know about that as well. Okay, guys, so tonight we are going to start with study unit 1. Again, for stats 1510 and 1610, the study material is exactly the same. It is your assignments that are different. So yes, there's 2 different times when when the assignments will be open, and when assignments are due, but the basics of the course is similar for both. So the plan is to have today, next week, and the week after, that we do study units 1, 2, and 3, which will cover your first assignment, so that you then have still enough time to do your first assignment, and also nearly if you need to. I think in both of the groups, you are also allowed to do, I think, the assignment twice. definitely on a 1610 side. So it does give you opportunity also if you want to check in on the WhatsApp group with me or via email and say, John, I went through the first assignment. There's still something that I'm not clear. Again, we can chat about that. Okay, so I think what I want to go through is some of nearly the definition side, the theory side, but you will also see in the slide pack there is some questions as well, and I will also load study units 1 to 3 by this weekend onto the system as well, and I'll see if I can actually then also share the link to that on our WhatsApp group. So I'll do that as well. So again, for the guys that has just joined, let me just, I think I had my details. I'll just copy that in again so that you can see my details. There's also attendance register that you can also just complete for me. But you can do that during the time. So in the chat there is all of my contact details as well. Okay, so let's focus on study unit 3. You will see in your assessment that your first assessment covers study units 1 to 3. Your assessment will nearly be it's 12 to 13 questions that you will do online. It's about, I think, last that I just want to we'll make sure again, it's or 2 or 3 hours that you have to do the assessment. Then also how it's structured, and that's exactly the same as in the exam, is you get question 1, you complete question 1, you go to question 2, you will not be able to go back to question 1 again. So just make sure when you do this assessment or assignments and also in the exam, you are never allowed to go back to the previous question. So with that in mind, both your assignment and your exam will be structured that the first few questions is study unit 1, second few questions, study unit 2, and so forth. So it will not be a mix of questions as well. So I think just for if you prepare for your assignments as well, that is how it will be structured. Okay, so let's go into some of the details. So the things that we in study unit 1 needs to nearly know, and it's 3 things. So we need to nearly, they can ask us question on sample versus population, which most of the time is some kind of definition question if I want to look at it. They will ask you questions on types of variables and then the different scales of measurement. So you will see in your study guide, they've got a few questions that they ask. So we'll again do a mixture of questions in this session as well. What I thought was important for you, and that's why I will share this on both of the team side and the my UNISA side, is since it is open book, you guys are allowed to have these things when you do the assignments and exam, is just to have a set of definitions for this first chapter. So we basically and the reason why we're doing it now is later on in study unit 5, 6, and 7, we get questions around, is it part of a sample? Is it part of a population? So it's more with a view also on later on to understand what is a population, what is a sample. So the easiest to remember the population, it is basically, if you look at everything. So population of South Africa is about 60 million people. If we want to take a sample of that, we can ask, what is the population of Gauteng, or what is the population of UNISA students of the total? So sample is basically, in simple terms, just a subset of a population. The sample can be anything. So they can say a sample is the surface that stays in Durban or anything like that. So it can really be any subset of a population. Then the other thing that I think it's important is that they, when we look at data and data sets, you'll see in chapter 2 and chapter 3 that you will get data that you need to analyze. So it might be data that you need to put in a table. It might be data that you need to put into a graph or something like that. It might be data that you need to analyze by looking at the mean and the median and those kind of things. So that's coming in study unit 2 and 3, but I think that's why it's important that we just mention it here, and what might come is how we nearly analyze data. And please stop me anytime during this to ask questions or anything like that. So what they might ask you or put in a question is they might say the measure of a statistic is the sample mean, or a measure of a parameter is a population mean. So when we look at sample and population that we've now seen in the previous slides, when we look at the measurements, we always say that for a sample, we look at statistic. And for me, it's nearly how I remember it, is to say, well, sample, statistic, both starts with a S. So at least those two need to be the same. And the one that measures a population is parameters. So again, nearly for myself is to say, well, that is the easiest how to remember it, or how I remember it is to say, well, the sample goes with statistic, the population goes with parameter, and then the rest is nearly simple because it says sample mean or sample median. So that for me is nearly how I try to remember it, is just remember sample with a statistic, population with a parameter. They do like, and that's why I'm going to mark this with a cross as well, they like to, in words, nearly ask a question like this. So they might give you 4 or 5 statements, and you need to say which one is correct or which one is incorrect or something like that. So just be on the lookout for this. I'll check and I'll share some of previous year's assignment with you. So let me, I'll do that on the WhatsApp group as well. I'll share some of the previous year's assignment one with you that you can also see the types of thing that they are asking. So this is when we look sample versus population. Then we go into types of variables. And again, I think how one needs to look at this is quantitative on this side. I always say it's quantity, so it's something that you can count. So you can count how many kilometers it took you to drive from point A to point B. You can count how many money is in your wallet. You can count how hot it is going to be tomorrow. So those things are nearly things that you can count. Qualitative on the other end is more open-ended questions. It's questions about feelings as well. But open-ended questions will be something like, you get a question, what color is your eyes? And then there's brown, blue, green, whatever else there is, and you select one of them. I can't count eyes unless somebody tells me that there are 50 people in the room and there are 100 eyes or something like that. But in general, if it's like, what province are you living in? It's a qualitative measure. It's not a quantitative measure. So those are the two measurements that we get in, or types of variables, is qualitative and quantitative. Then within quantity or quantitative, we get discrete versus continuous. So discrete is when you can physically count it, like 1, 2, 3. If I ask you what amount is in your wallet, your response to that will be 15 Rand 40 or something like that. So that is discrete. If I am saying in a question how far you need to drive every morning to work, then how far I need to drive to work, and somebody like Peter that is in the session needs to drive to work, or Henry needs to drive to work, or Rayas needs to drive to work, it's different. And I might say I am driving 15.5678 kilometers to work, and somebody might say they're driving 5 kilometers to work. So we haven't really defined what our response needs to be. So that's a continuous variable. So it might be also something like the salary that somebody earns. It's something else if I said in the question, what is the Rand value of your salary? Because then it needs to be 5 Rand or 10 or 15. It's not a continuous, then it's discrete. So when we get to some of those questions, I'll also show you the wording that they use, because sometimes it's you look at the question and you don't know in which one you need to put it, because it is so close to one another. But we'll get to a question on discrete and continuous. So types of variables, one gets two types, qualitative, quantitative, and within quantitative we get discrete and continuous. Then I'll share that Word document as well with you guys, because they just give more examples in that Word document. So I think, again, with a lot of these, with the types and with a scale of measurement, it's nearly to see how many examples one can get to assist you guys. So in this, basically, with the scales, again, we talk about nominal scale or ordinal scale. And with ordinal, you can nearly say there is order in what needs to follow. So nominal can be you categorize, but there's no rank. So which province do you stay in? So we can categorize that of the 17 or 20 people that's on this call. We can categorize it, and we can say, well, 4 stays in this province, 5 in another, 1 in another. So there's no ranking in it, but we categorize it. The other one is to say, while we're categorizing it, we're also putting order in it, and that is ordinal. So let's think about order in, so if you're in the police force, there is order in ranking. So don't know what the orders are, but there's a colonel, there's a sergeant, there's so there's definitely ranking in that. If you study with your first year, second year, third year, honors, masters, so there's order in those ranking of studies. A grade, so by ordering people on the grade that they got, that's also a type of way to order it. Then within ordinal, I think what's also important is you get interval, and you get ratio. So a interval scale or interval is something that there's order and there's distance. So something like age. So if I am a certain age, somebody else, so say I'm 40, somebody else is 20, I know that I am how many years older than that other person. So there's nearly order in the age ranking. Then something like ratio is where there's also a zero present. So something like temperature. So you can get negative temperature, you can get positive temperature, and you can get zero. Rate on return on your investment. So you can go into a positive, but you can also lose money. So ratio is nearly looking at those things that have rates to it. So I don't think interest rate will ever go negative. So we don't, but basically investment rates, things like that can go negative. So so that is nearly a ratio, but important with a ratio is there's always a zero present in that scale, where with normal interval there isn't. So I think that's just important, and the big difference between the two. So again, they can ask you a question on which one of these are wrong and tell you that age is interval or age is ratio. They can also ask you nearly to say which is from smallest to highest order of ranking nearly. To say, well, okay, nominal, there's no rank. Ordinal, there's some rank. Within ordinal, there's interval with a ranking and order, and then ratio, that's the highest order of ranking because it consists of a zero as well. Okay, so a few of examples in these. So nominal, like I said, there is basically no ranking, and it's set there in the scales of measurement. So and I think this group is perfect for that, because I think a lot of the 1510 guys are doing a more science degree, where the 1610 are doing more e-commerce. So it basically, 1510 could have been one of the categories, and 1610 could be one of the categories. No order in it. You're actually doing the same subject. So that is nearly a nice one to include in a nominal scale. Order is again when there is rank involved. Interval, and I think the other thing with interval, it's always numeric, and the same with ratio as well. So what can happen sometimes is, and I've seen that, so they give you a table or a pie graph that is saying maybe TV viewership or something like that. And then they say DSTV, Netflix, Showmax, and something else. But they just give you percentages of what people are watching. So in that instance, it's not any measurements of scale. There's no order in it. It's actually a categorical variable. So I think it's also important to nearly know that when you look at scales of measurement with ordinal, with both interval and ratio, it's always on a numerical scale. Okay, so let's get into some examples. Okay, so on ratio things, distance, height, weight, and time use the ratio scale. It's interesting. Weight, shoe must contain a zero value. So how can weight and height be? So if it's, I think what we need to add here, so that, because that is now confusing. We just need to add rate of change in here. Rate of change variables. So it is more to do with the change in, because if you lose weight and things like that, then there's but you can't have a negative weight in real life. So it's more about the rate of change in variables. So let me do that while we are speaking. Yeah, so I think that is important, and so they can, again, dependent on the question, have different options, because they could ask you rate of change in your height, or they can ask a question about the height of people in the room or something like that. So again, dependent on what the question is, the outcome might be different. So the next few slides is just basically a few examples, and it might even have previous papers that I looked at as well. So the first one looks at and it asks a question, which of the following variables should probably be R is continuous. So let's just go back to continuous. So it was one of the quantitative variables. It is basically nearly covering any number. So is score in a soccer match continuous? Yes or no? And let's open the you can unmute yourself and let me know. So or you can put in the chat, you can type as well. So would you say score in a soccer match is continuous? So who wants to react to it? Okay, so we have one that says it's continuous. Thank you, Michael. Who else? Okay, nobody else wants to venture into it. Okay, so it is unfortunately not continuous, but it's discrete. Okay, so and the reason why it is discrete is you'll get the score of 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 2, 2. So it's not a continuous number of 1.5678. So it can only be, and if I can put it that way, a solid number that it will be. So when we look at this, it is more a number that you can count than it being a continuous number. Okay, so with the score in soccer, it will be discrete. Okay, the temperature in degrees Celsius, this discrete, continuous, not any of them, something else. What would you again on this one say? Checking the chat unless somebody else also put up their hand and say something. Perfect. Okay. So that one is continuous. Sure, now to spell continuous. Okay, so second one is continuous. So then we know that the other three is not continuous, but let me show you also. So number of, okay, so when you see number of, remember it is discrete. Age in years, okay, so it can only then be discrete. Number of, so whenever you see in a question number of, think about it, it can only be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. You can't get a half number of defective machine part. You only can get a full part. The same with number of modules needed for a degree. You don't have a half module. You can only have a number, so 1 or 2 or 3. The same when they set age in years, then you know, if I look at the students in this classroom and I set age in years, your response is going to be, I'm 19 or I'm 50 or I'm 35. You're not going to say, I am 24.5678 years old. Okay, that's not the way we talk and things like that. So nearly if you see these kind of, and that's why nearly the same with the score in a soccer match. It's the same if it was a score in cricket, rugby, anything like that. You nearly know it is a discrete number that will come out. Okay, so this is one example nearly of looking at discrete and continuous. But obviously there is other sets of questions as well. So a summary measurement that is computed from a sample, and that's again, unfortunately with you not being able to look at a printed paper or assignment, it's very difficult to nearly highlight online the keywords. But a summary measurement that's computed for a sample to describe a characteristic of a population is called. Okay, so a summary measurement that is computed from a sample. Okay, so that is basically what you are looking at. So if we say sample, which one goes with sample? So sample goes, why did that not work? Sample and statistic goes together. So that would be your correct one. But look here, so they do give you as well the parameter that goes with population. So just if to nearly confuse you, then they even included inferential statistics, which just no. So you will unfortunately see things in your both assignments and that will be across all your assignments and in the exam towards the end of the year, that they throw in things that is not really related at all to the question, but somewhere in the book they would have talked about inferential statistics. So, and that is just now to confuse you, because when I said to you guys, just look for the S, it could have been very easily that this inferential statistics is option one when you do it online, and then it's like, John said statistics, okay, it should have been that. So just be very careful with the things that they add to nearly confuse. And then a variable is definitely not one of those. Variables are X or Y, or if you look at color of eyes, that is a variable. So it's not one of those. But again, I think it's valuable to, if you look at this, nearly to have this when you are doing the assignment, have this when you are doing the assignment. So I will definitely share all these notes with you guys so that you have it when you're doing the assignments. Also, I have made nearly 1 pages of all the study units as well that I will send to you that you can also use just to make your life easier. Okay, questions up until this point? let's quickly just get a check in. Is and let's phrase it this way: is this assisting you guys? Is it making the things that if you have gone through some of the work, making it easier? If you haven't gone through the work, it's also fine. Will this help you? Nearly. Okay, thanks. I'm getting one thumbs up. So this is nearly how I think we'll continue the process. We will, after each of your assignments, we'll look at some of the questions as well. So, and that just as something that you guys, after your assignments, you can share with me. Sometimes they don't share the assignments with us. Some of it, or they don't share the assignments even with you guys. So I know they say don't take photos of your assignment, um, but please, if there is some of those questions that you struggle with, take a pic of it. You can always send it to me after you've submitted the assignment. It's not that nobody's going to assist you while you're writing the assignment, but it's important that we get that you get it right the next time, so that you are prepared for it to get it right in the exam. So also use the assignments more as something that you learn how the process works to get the questions right. You get 2 or 3 times to complete the assignment, use it. Um, how the assignments and the exam works is that there is about 4 or 5 different sets of questions per question. So it's not that the question changes, but in a question like this, they could have swapped some of the answers around, or they could have said which one of the following variables are discrete, or something like that. So they might just ask the question differently, but they're not gonna give you now only one question on this and 10 questions on something else. So also, especially when we get to study unit 2 and 3, you might get this different data sets, but the answers look the same. So it is not worthwhile to, in any case, try and get somebody else to answer it, because they might actually sit with a different paper. But please, if there's some of those questions that you're struggling with, please send to me, and in the next session after the assignments, I will actually put all of those questions into a PowerPoint, and we can work through the questions after you have submitted it, and things like that. Okay, let's look at another question. So, which of the following is a qualitative? Okay, so what did we remember about qualitative? So qualitative is, it's not quantity, because that's quantitative. So qualitative is about open-ended questions. It is looking at things that might be explaining a bit more. So let's look. The height of a cable car. Okay, so height is quantity. It's not qualitative, so it's definitely not the first one. But distance in meters, distance in, it's also quantity. So height and distance would have been quantitative variables. The highest education qualification of respondents in an interview. Sure. Okay. I'm doing a question mark because that's like, yeah, doesn't feel right, but let's rather work with elimination in this one. The hourly rate is, we know it's 50 Rand or 60 Rand, so that is also quantity, the number of siblings, also quantity. Okay, so it needs to be free. So Riaz, if I hope I pronounce your name correctly, it is free. But let's also see why it is free. The highest educational qualification. Yeah. Okay. What is highest educational qualification? So we haven't specified what we are looking at. So it can be what I define as highest qualification and what you define as highest qualification can be something different. So, and they are saying to us of respondents in an interview, so that doesn't add anything to it. But basically, if I said what is the thing that how we measure qualification, if I said that grading system, then it's something else. Then we know how they define qualification. But in here, we can't count it. There's no distance, so there's no count. So what we know here is it can be something like grade 12. It can be something like first year. It can be something like grade 7. So then in this, we can see it's not quantitative, it is qualitative. Here is maybe rank in, there might be rank in here, but we don't 100% know. But it's definitely qualitative because it's not something continuous, or it's not something that we can count. It's again like at the moment, I don't know who in the room is 1510 or 1610, but I can say the qualifications of the people in the room is something. So, but I can't count it. And I think that's the importance then with option 3. You can't count it. You can group it. Then when you group it, you might know how many is in each. But that then is, you put it into categories that is qualitative. So it's definitely qualitative. Okay, so, and as I used to say in one of my previous years and other subjects, if you don't know the answer, guess option 3. But yeah, that's just on the sideline, but we're not gonna do it in this instance. Okay, so another question. The variable customer satisfaction using the following 4-point scale. Okay, so, and you all would have at some point nearly needed to complete somewhere, and you will probably later on do something like this to rate me. So 1, not satisfied, 2, 4, that is very satisfied. So in this customer satisfaction that you need to answer, is there order in it? So tell me, is there order? Or is there no order? Yes, there is order. Okay. So if there is order, what can it be? So if we go back to where is ordinal, so if it's ordinal, interval or ratio, so let's see if it is, so we know it's ordinal, so option 3. Okay, that's the interesting one. So what would you have said if this was your exam, or if this was your assignment? What would you have gone for? Because there's order, there's discrete and ordinal. How would you have gone to look at it? Okay, so we know it's not continuous. Okay, so that's definitely one that we know it's not continuous. So we know it's ordinal, but can it be discrete and ordinal? Okay, cool. So nice that you added that this interval link to it. So if I said interval and ordinal, then option 5 would have been a more correct one. But it's not discrete, so that's perfect. So it's an ordinal, and that's why it's interval and ordinal, not discrete and ordinal. Perfect. I like that answer. Cool. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So that one you would have seen. So it's 1 says not satisfied, up to 4 that says very satisfied. Now look at the next question. And I again just want to make it a bit bigger so that you guys can see it. So nearly the same type of question. So the variable country with possible values encoded as 1 South Africa, 2 USA, 3 UK, and 4 Zimbabwe represents. Okay, so what would we say is this one? Okay, got nominal. Okay, so there's definitely no order. It's definitely not discrete. I would also have said nominal. Continuous, no. Both ordinal and discrete. See, so this might be a question that one group in the exam get or in the assignment, and this might be a question that somebody else gets. It's very similar. It asks you a lot of the same things, but it has 2 different answers. And that's why nearly in both 1510, 1610, both will be nearly like that. You will not have exactly the same paper as the other person, but perfect. Nominal, reason nominal, there is no order in that. It's something else again if they said the number is representing the highest GDP or something like that. Then when they bring that in, then you are creating order again. But just linking the number to a country, it has no link to it at all. So that is why it is nominal. This one again is very small, so let me see if I can just make it. Okay, I hope you guys can see it a bit better. Okay, so which of the following statements is incorrect? So let's make it even bigger for you guys to see. Okay, so important in this one, incorrect. So again, to prepare for the exam and the test, just be very careful when you read it, because sometimes very easily you look at the question, you think you're looking for the correct one, you say the first one is correct, and you go on. So just be very careful when you look at it, to always look at the question very carefully. Okay, so incorrect. Nominal data are also called qualitative. Okay, we know that is correct. So nominal is qualitative. Quantitative data in statistics refer to continuous data alone. Nope. Remember, quantitative also goes hand in hand with discrete, so it's not only continuous. So that one is actually the one that is incorrect. Qualitative variables indicate that a person or object belongs in a category. Qualitative is all about categories, so that is correct. The method of payment is qualitative. Correct. So your method of payment will be cash, credit card, debit card, what else there is. So it puts you into a category. So method of payment is qualitative. If I said the amount of a payment, the amount would be quantitative. So again, just by changing the question a little bit, it could have been something different. So the method is qualitative, but if I ask you the amount will be quantitative, because amount is quantity again. Oh, the last one is, so the amount of money a person withdraws from an ATM today is a discrete variable. Yes, because you can only draw 10 rand, 20 rand, 50 or something in hundreds or in rand. You can't draw a continuous amount of money. You can only draw a discrete number. Okay, so that nearly is a different way that they can ask it. They love this type of question, to be honest. So they like this type of question to ask, because in here they can ask you your nominal. They can, so in this one question, they actually, if we look at the diagrams, they ask you qualitative, they ask you quantitative, they had the discrete continuous, but they also had this. So they can nearly in one question cover a lot of the questions for study unit 1. So just again, be careful. So what they will probably do, and I'll show you when we get late in the year to exam prep as well, is on study unit 1, You will get 2 questions. The first one is more likely to be on sample and population, those kind of things, where the second one is been around the types and the variables that you need to identify. In the assignment, it will be much more. So in the assignment, study unit will be about 4 questions that you will get. Okay, so let's get to the last question from study unit 1, and then we can actually continue a study unit 2. I don't have a problem with that. We can continue with study unit 2, and we can just, if we then finish next week study unit 3, we can have a week before your assignments that we just do prep for your assignment, and I can go through a previous assignment 1 with you guys. So that might also be a way that we can do it. So let's look at this question. I just again want to make it a bit bigger. What? Okay. Which one of the following statements again incorrect? Okay. The number of ear piercers a person has represents a discrete variable. Okay. Yes, it's correct. We're looking for the incorrect one. So you can only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many piercers? You can't have a 0.5. I hope you can't. So the number of is discrete. The opinion about legalization of marijuana is qualitative. Okay. Opinion, categories. Categories is always qualitative. So that's correct. So we're still not at the incorrect one. So how they can also have asked this is people with the categories of responses is good, bad, happy, whatever, for the legalization of marijuana. So is this qualitative or quantitative? So they can put it in that frame as well. Okay, number of nearly already tells me it needs to be discrete. So the number of oil cans sold at a given petrol station is continuous. That is incorrect because, again, you can't sell a 0.275 can of oil. It can only be a discrete number that you can sell. But again, number of nearly already indicates to me that it can only be discrete. Okay, so that one is incorrect. Height of, again, height of will be probably discrete. Discrete is part of quantitative, so that is correct. The daily number of students, so again, daily number, it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. How many students? Again, can only be discrete. So that is correct as well. So again, if you look at it, the incorrect one is because they said continuous and not discrete. So that is nearly how they can ask questions in your assignments and in the exam paper later, it's around these kind of things. Okay, so that is study unit 1, but since we have time, I think we can start with study unit 2, but let's take a 5-minute break, and let's just start at 6:10 again. So 5-minute break, start at 6:10, and then I can just get my presentation ready, and we can continue with study unit 2 as well. But please, if there is any questions that you guys have, please ask. Or if you want to ask something in the chat, you can just type that as well. Okay, I just want to make sure. Can you guys see the session 2 slide? Okay. Also, what you can check, I will, as I add you to the WhatsApp group, I've also got the YouTube channel. So I'll add the link to it later in here when I share it as well. So there is really a lots of previous years 1610 that there's videos per study unit as well. So I will share that again with the group as well. Because again, the 1610 and 1510 is exactly the same. So please, the 1510 guys can also use it. So I will add the link to this so that it is part of the documentation that will be on the Western Cape UNISA page. But I'll also I normally share the presentations in any case in the WhatsApp group as well. So again, just a note, hopefully my load shedding schedule is a bit different next week. That we can have a 6 to 8 class again, because it was a bit of a rush this evening. But yeah, this whole week load shedding is between 6 and 8, so it's a bit difficult to get for 2 hour session a full streaming and those on the fiber. So okay, so we're going into study unit 2. So study unit 2, you will see, and this is how the approach is going to be from nearly the next part of the sessions going forward, is I'm nearly giving you a summary of what we need to cover. Then lots of questions to work through, and then there will be in the end nearly a few slides on what's needed to know. So with study unit 1, I did it the other way around, gave you lots of information beforehand, and then we went into some of the questions. But from now on, nearly we will quickly run through the summary slides, then focus on the questions, and then there will be more detail things to look at. And the reason for that nearly is, for me, study unit 1 is very focused on nearly the definitions and what is this variable, what is that variable. So you nearly need to know the background. From here on, you will see we're getting data, and it's easier to explain what the sample size is, what median is, when we're actually looking at data. So we can speak about it. I will share with you later on during the, I'll give you a whole 3 or 4 pages of the formulas that we will use. But again, it's open book and those kind of things. So I rather want you to nearly understand what we're looking at than to tell you this is the formula for mean or this is the formula for something else. So you would, again, in your assignment, there's different ways that they kind of present this data to you. So they can give the data to you in a stem and leaf diagram, which is basically this what we are looking at. Um, they can give it to you as a table, and they can ask you questions around it. They can also, so all of this is nearly stem and leaf. They can give you a frequency table, and they can ask you questions around that. The other thing that they can do and probably will do is when we get to study unit 3, they can give you this detail, probably more in a table, and then they can ask you to work out what is the mean, what is the variance, what is the standard deviation. But that is in study unit 3. For that, I'll give you tools, other things that will be easier for you to use. So when we get to study unit 3, we need to work out standard deviations. We need to work out variances, those kind of things. I will show it to you in Excel. What I've also done last year for the 1610 guys, we'll do it again this year, but also for 1510, is I will share a whole Excel spreadsheet with you that covers from study unit 2 up until study unit 11, that has built-in formulas and all those kind of things. So if you are comfortable in using Excel, you can use that as a template also, but I'll share that with you guys a bit later on in some of the communication. Okay, so let's look at stem and leaf. So basically what a stem and leaf is, it represents data to you. And why they call it stem and leaf is they say, okay, that is the stem, and each of these parts are basically a leaf, the leaves of a tree. Okay, it sounds silly, but it's actually a very, very easy way then to nearly remember what the stem and leaf is. So basically, the ones to the left of the line is the stem. The numbers to the right of the line is the leaves. Um, so also very important, nearly they would tell you nearly how the data looks like. So given the following stem and leaf display for midterm exam scores. So exam scores is 50, 74 up to 92. But if they set exam scores to the nearest decimal, then it would have been 5.0, and that would have been 9.2. So again, when we'll go through a few of these, and I'll look for an example of where they actually set look at it as a decimal, because again, it might be that there's one answer that is very simple to exclude or to answer, that you might miss because of something that was said upfront in the question. Okay, so the numbers that we are looking at is 50, 74, 74, 76, 81, 89, and 92. So when they ask a few things around that sample. Okay, so the first one is the sample size is 7. So how I normally, sometimes they tell it to you in the question, sometimes you just need to basically go and look at how many points there are. So 50 is 1, 54, 50, 74, 74. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so there is 7 numbers in this, smallest 50, the biggest 92. Okay, the approximately most of the candidates had distinctions. Okay, I'm gonna put a question mark around that first, because again, what's the distinction? Is it 75? Is it 80? So let's just first have a question mark around that. The median is 76. So the median is the number that is in the middle. So if we have 7 numbers, we've got 3 numbers there, we've got 3 numbers there, that number is in the middle. So 76 is the one in the middle, so that is correct. The first exam score is 1. Okay, I don't even see over 5th. Sorry. Again, I must just open my eyes on that one. So let's check. So they say the 5th score is 1. Is it 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I want to check if you remember what the STEM is and what the LEAF is. So the 5th exam score is actually 81 and not just 1. So remember, it is 81. So that is the wrong one. But also, if you look at option 5, you would have seen, okay, but if I order the data, a STEM and LEAF display must always also be ordered. So you can't get a non-ordered STEM and LEAF. It must always be ordered, otherwise it's wrong. So the numbers are 50, 54, 74, 74, 76, 81, 89, and 82. So you could have seen out of this as well that your 5th number would have been 81. Okay, so that is correct. We know now that that one is incorrect. So approximately most of the candidates had distinctions. So I would then say that a distinction is, I think it's above 75. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of the 7 is more than 50. So most of them had distinctions is then correct. The problem that I have with this is if I said 80 is a distinction, and I'm looking at 3 numbers, and then it's not the most. So again, I would prefer that if they say something like a distinction, they must tell you actually what the percentage is. So that is one of the ways that they can ask STEM and LEAF. The things that they could have asked still is what's the minimum value, which is the 50. What's the maximum value is the 92. So that they still could have asked you. The other thing that they could have asked you is what is the range in this. which would have been the 92 minus 50, which would have been, what is it, 42. So that is what they could have asked, and we will probably get to some of those questions. So that's why nearly, if you look at the stem and leaf, it's one of those that covers a lot of data in it, and they can ask you a lot of things around that. When we get to study unit 3, they can look at the stem and leaf and ask you, and we're not going to do it tonight, we'll do it next week, but they can ask you about Q1 and Q3. So we will look at that next time, but then we're basically combining study unit 3 with study unit 2 and visually putting that into a visual representation that you need to look at Q1 and Q2. So there might be some of those questions that we will cover in the next session or 2 sessions before you do the assignment. Okay, then what they also like to do is they give you a set of data. They give it to you I don't even know if that is a word, unordered, not ordered, random kind of, and they expect you to then, okay, see, so here's what I wanted to, so they're telling you it's a 2-digit, so that you know it's 11 and not 1.1. So that's the one that I was looking for, how they would have said it. So they might tell you it's a 1-digit, so that you know it's 1.1 or something like that. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to order it, and then we will put it into a diagram. But let's first look at the options. And again, why I'm doing this is in the assignment, you might have your 2 or 3 hours for the 12 or 13 questions. In the exam, you will have 2 or 3 hours for all of your 25 questions. So the time is just so much different in the exam. So rather, let's look at things that I can give you tips as well on to eliminate. So if these are your 5 options that they gave you, you know there's order. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, that from that point of view, there is order. 1, 3, 2. That order is wrong. 1, 2, 3. There's order. 1, 3, 2. There's no order, so it's wrong. In here, they don't even have the stem, they only give you leaf, so that's also wrong. So without looking at the data yet, you basically have option 1 and option 3. Then what I would do next is when you look at option 1, so I haven't looked at the data at all yet, you have 1, 3, 7, so there's order. I've got 8, 4, 8, 2, so already in that one, there's no order. 3, 2, no order. So actually the only one that could be the correct one is option 3. So without even looking at the data, I just nearly identified what could be a possibility. But let's still look at the data because I think that is important. So 11, 13, 17. So if I had the stem and just see it as a straight tree diagram. So there's 11, 13, 17. Then we go to the ones that's in the 20s. So we've got 22, we've got 24, we've got 2 28s, and then if we go to the 30s, we've got 2 there, 32 and 33. And then if you look at those two, they are actually also the same. So again, nearly giving you tips while we're doing this because I think it's important. So if you can cut down on timing, there is certain easy ones that one can do that. Let's just have a quick check-in on, are you okay with what we're doing with the stem and leaf? Does it make sense? It doesn't need to be 100% understandable yet, but does it at least give you some comfort, the things that we going through, that it will be, by the time you do the assignment, will be easier to understand and things like that. Thanks, Ruan, for the thumbs up. The rest of the guys, are you also okay thus far? Okay, cool. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Again, stem and leaf. So again, in the following stem and leaf, display for a set of 2-digit. Okay, I like that. So now that I mentioned it, now I see it in all of the questions. 2-digit. So let's just, with even looking at the data too much, 2 digits, the first one should be 20. Okay, so if I get this where they actually refer to that, that's wrong. So just eliminate that from the start. 2 digits, so it needs to be 20, so it can't be 2.0. Eliminate. I don't even need to look at it. 2, okay, there isn't a 2 because I know the minimum is 20, so that is wrong. So if you needed to nearly guess because of timing, at least there's only 2 left. Okay, so let's look at the first one is 20, so both of them is correct. The second one is 22, both of them is correct. The third one is 22. Okay, so we see they left out 22 there. The next one is 27, 51, 51. Okay, so all the duplicates were left out in 4. So 4 is also then incorrect. So 3 is the only correct one. So again, it is interesting how they could nearly that. Here they've just dropped all the duplicates. So it might be that you even think, okay, but the duplicate is fine to drop it because the variable is, or the number is still in the row, but you actually, when you need to represent it in the original, you need to show that there are duplicates. Okay, so again, you could have, by just looking at the data and some of the answers, you originally could have eliminated 3 of the options. Okay, so again, nearly just want to show you how to use some of the the shortcuts in eliminating some of these options. Okay, now this is a much bigger set of data. So in a set like this, they will tell you how many there are. So they're not going to expect you in a set of 40 or 50 numbers to actually go and count it and then tell you what the size of the sample is. They will do that with a smaller sample of 7 or 8. They're not going to do it with this set. So they will upfront tell you, we're working with 40 workers, and here's the stem and leaf of that 40 workers. They tell us we're working with ages. Okay, so the first thing I would look at is to say, okay, my youngest age is 25, my oldest age is 61. So I will look at these options and say, okay, let's see if I ask one of those. Smallest age is 25. Cool, correct. I'm unfortunately looking for incorrect, so but at least one is sorted. Most ages, okay, mode, range, median. Okay, so they don't ask me the oldest, but that's fine. One is sorted. Then the second thing I would do is to say, okay, I know the oldest, I know the youngest. If I say 61 minus 25, that will give me the range. So that's 36. And somewhere here they ask us what the range is, 36. Okay, unfortunately also correct. So we don't have the incorrect one, but we haven't done too much work yet to look at it. Okay, so mode. What is mode? Mode is the number that appears the most in the data set. Okay, so the number that appears the most, you can have more than one mode. So let's look at the set. So we've got 25 is one time, okay, 26 is twice, 28 is twice, 30, 51, 53 is 3 times, might be 35 is twice, 36 is twice, so 53 is still the most. Twice, 40 twice, 41 is 4 times. Okay, so mode of 41 is now, it's not 53 anymore because 41 has 4. Okay, 46 is 3, so it's still not. Okay, so 41 happens the most, it happens 4 times, so the mode is 41. Okay, so unfortunately also still correct. So we're not yet got the incorrect one. Okay, then let's go to the median. Median is the number in the middle. We've got 41, so there isn't a number in the middle. So how we look at that is to say the number that I need to go and find is the number that is 40 plus 1 divided by 2, which is 20.5. So I need to go and look at the between the numbers 20 and 21, where that number will be. So I need to go and, unfortunately on this, go and count up until number 20, look at what is 21 and see what's in between them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so that's 20. That's 21. So between numbers 20, that is 38, number 21, that is also 58. Basically, the number in between them is 58. So the median is 38 is also correct. So the one that is wrong is option 2. But let's look at why it is wrong. So they tell us most ages in the sample are greater than 40. Okay, so they tell us that, oh, come on, that these numbers, so there are more numbers in this part that I basically have now circled than not. Okay, so let's go and count this part. We know there's 40, so I need to, for that statement to be true, this needs to be 21 numbers or more. Otherwise, there's more on that side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And it's only 50 numbers. So more of the numbers is actually smaller than 40. So that is why this one is wrong. Okay, and there's not nearly any other way that you could have, there is another way, sorry. You could have said, well, the mean is in the middle. So if I look at the mean, median, let me repeat that. So if I look at the median is the number in the middle of a data set, where I know half of the data is lying to the one side. So half of the data is 58 and smaller, half of the data is 58 and bigger. So if there is numbers that is still on this side that's below 40, I know that it then skews to the lower end of the data. So that could have been a way to look at it as well without counting it, is to say, well, if it was most, it should have been more than 58. It's actually more than 40, so it's not. So that is another way to look at this set of data, and if you don't need to count it. Okay, questions on this question? So you will see that I do have a lot of a stem and leaf in here, just because they can ask you so much around it. So that is nearly, so if you think about it, here we did sample size, we did median, the order. Here we needed to plot it. Again, we needed to plot it. Here we nearly have, again, median, but now they bring in mode, they bring in range, they bring in smallest, highest. The other thing that they can ask, and let's see, it's not in here, but they can ask you to work out the average, but then again, it will be on a smaller set of data. It will not be on 40 numbers. There will be no way that they will give you a table of 40 numbers and then say work out the average. That will just not the same. They won't give you information like this big and then say work out in study unit free variance or standard deviation or anything like that. So when you need to work out those questions that's much more difficult or a lot of things that you need to do, then it will be a small sample. It will be 4 or 5 numbers. They will not give you a big data set like this and then ask you to work out variance or averages, all of those kind of things. It is just not on, because that just will take too much of your time. Okay, so this question, you can see it in 2018. The lecturer nearly used the May-June paper, and when it was still semester subject, May-June paper exactly the same in October, November. Data set exactly the same, the questions a bit different, slightly different. So let's look at which one of the following statements is incorrect. So the range is 50. So let's look at smallest number. Highest number is 86. Smallest number is 36. 86 minus 36 is 50. So the range was 50 in both instances. The fifth largest number. Okay, so if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth largest number should be 80. Okay, they say it is 50. It's wrong in this side. The fifth smallest number. Okay, so if you add it as the fifth smallest, then it would have been correct. So really looking at the same table, same data nearly, just one small change in it, in the question makes it different. There are 33 numbers. That is correct. The mode is 70, so let's look at the one that happens the most. So 51 happens twice, 55 happens twice, 64 happens twice, 70 happens 3 times, so 70 is the mode, 70 is the mode. Median 64, so if we have 33 numbers, 33 divided by 2 gives you, so we can add 1 to it, gives you 17, so value 17, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 64 is the median. It's correct. Median is 4, so they hoped that you look at that number 4 and say it's 4 and not 64. So 64 it should have been and not 4. So exactly the same data. They changed the question slightly, and that is probably how it will be in your assignments as well, is the one will get this question and the other one will get that question, and there will be another 2 or 3 options. So very similar. The things that we looked at was in the previous questions as well: minimum, maximum, range, mode, median, the number of. So this one was actually been a nice one if you needed to count it, if it's one of the options, because then that's an easy one to get right. Okay, we've got 10 minutes, so let's do the last one. So not stem and leaf, it's just pure data. So they're giving you a frequency distribution. Again, the same data was given in the 2 exams. They tell you there's 500 people, and this is how they voted in the during the voting period, or what their political views are. And they ask you what is the relative frequency. So they ask you what's the relative frequency of ANC. Okay, so now the question that we need to first answer ourselves is, what do they mean, or what do you know relative frequency is? So is relative frequency something like just the number? Is it a division of something? So what is relative frequency? Because if you say it's the number, we've got the number for ANC 160. If we say it is 160 divided by, let me quickly get my calculator. So if we say it's 160 divided by the 500, we get 0.32, which is another option. Percentage, average. So Ruan and Ian, you're saying the same thing, nearly. It's on the right track. So it is a percentage, or it is the average that so it's 160 divided by the 500. So not 100% average that you're calculating, but I think this is what, Ian, what you probably wanted to say is 160 divided by the 500. So then it is option 3. So also very important that because there was this option of just the number. So I think that is important nearly. So the next time I will add something for you on relative frequency, cumulative frequency, and all of that. It's something that we like to ask. So I will, in the next session next week, that's hopefully at 6, I'll definitely show you one that has all of those things that we need to know. So from what is the number, the relative number, to relative frequency, to cumulative frequency, and all of that, because you will get something like that in the assignment and also in the exam. So October, November, that was a question. So they just flipped it around in the other exam, and they asked what's the relative frequency of a DA, which would have then been 246 divided by 500, which, so again, you would see there is 246, but 246 divided by 500 is just under 50%, so it would probably be option 2 of 0.492. Again, when you look at that, look at what they did then in October, November. So nearly, if you had the paper, you had it somewhere, you got it somewhere, you got the memo, they made sure that if you just say the option is 2, you would have been wrong. So again, bit deviant, but let's not. But basically that is how we would work out relative frequency. So again, just be careful when you do the assessments. If I talk frequency, then you know that you nearly need to look at the decimal. So relative frequency, you look at the decimal. Cumulative, relative frequency, I'll give you an example of that. But in here, if the cumulative relative of the first two would have been 160 plus the 246 would have been 406. So they probably also had somewhere a question about what is the cumulative of the first two or something like that. So it could have been something that they also did in another paper. Yeah, so that's basically part of study unit 2, but I'll share the slides, and then next week I'll go through another few of study unit 2 as well, and we can look at study unit 3. But definitely, again, I want to include some of the frequency tables that I know you will get. So what they did last year is they in the assignment. So again, to get your mind nearly ready and focused for that, what they did is they showed, say, it was a cumulative table. So let's say they showed that in the first question. So maybe they didn't tell you to work out the range, but they said to you minimum was that, maximum was that. And then the next question, they give you the same data, and then suddenly they ask you to work out the range, which you actually maybe would have done in the first question already. So when we meet next week, what I will do is I will have one of those questions that nearly follows onto one another, so that you nearly also, when you do the assessment or assignment, they will tell you question 4, 5, and 6 is on the next data, so that you nearly write down some of those information that you're working out in one of the questions onto a piece of paper, so that if it might be in the second question. But I'll give you some tips on that as we go along the course as well. Okay, so that has been it for tonight. The whole session is recorded. Let me stop that so that it can be put on my